Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're back on the second update Red Skies dev server, and it's time to have a look at the UK cruiser, the Liverpool. This is a new squadron vehicle that is coming to the game for Britain, and it's going to be at rank 4 for the British tech tree. This means that it's actually going to be useful for researching rank 5, 4 and 3 of the Blue Water Fleet, and also at 5.3 means it has a pretty interesting lineup. Obviously the York and the Leander alongside of it, and then you have its larger brother, the Southampton, at 5.7 as well. So what is the Liverpool? Well, the Liverpool is a light cruiser. It has access to 3 main sets of guns. It has access to 3 triple-mounted 6-inch Mark 23 cannons in the form of 2 here, and then also 1 on the back. It loses 1 of its towers of guns. The Southampton actually has 4 of these, which is probably why it's a higher BR, but it does get some other interesting stuff. We're talking about 4 dual-mounting 4-inch guns. You can find them in the center here on these little areas right here. And then it also gets 6 dual mounts of 40mm, giving a good AA coverage in little mounts such as these, and then 4 single 40mm as well. This means that the complement of guns in the form of AA is 16 on the vehicle itself, and then the 4 inches to give your dual fire support on top of that. So the vehicle does have a decent amount of fire support, plus it also has access to the torpedoes as well, which should help it with those large destroyers and cruisers it will also fight, and even battleships, which it will get annihilated by. The engines in the center, you can see that there are 2 sets for the 2 separate smoke funnels. There's quite a lot of dead space in this vehicle compared to a lot of others. Like if you compare it even to like the Leopard, there's not a ton of dead space in this one. And if you compare it to like the Dante, there's no dead space at all in this. But in the Liverpool, there's actually quite a lot in this area, meaning that you could probably hit this thing and not do too much damage and just go straight through it. But obviously it has the ammo racks for the 6 inches in the front, very large ammo setup right here, and then also in the back as well, it's quite big as well. So setting those off shouldn't be too hard to do. The bridge in the center with the radio station behind, and also all of the fuel at the bottom. I feel like this thing has very small fuel tanks compared to a lot of other machines that I've seen. I'm wondering if this is missing something right now, because at least for me, there's no way this cruiser only has these fuel tanks. If you compare that to other machines of similar size, like if we have a look at the Southampton, for example, which is of the same class, you do have some more fuel tanks around these areas as well. I mean, maybe not. Like, well, we'll have to see, I suppose, going forward. But the Liverpool does have some armor as well. Alongside its guns. It has 114mm of a main belt. It also has some decent armor covering its ammunition in the form of some more 114, and then a little bit less of 76.2 and 63 around the case. On the elevators, it's 51mm, and on the turrets themselves the same, but on the turret faces it's 102. So even though this is a light cruiser, it does have a decent amount of armor on it, but not enough to be able to stop it against stuff like SAP, or even stuff such as battleships and battlecruisers, which is something that this thing can actually face. The other thing is it doesn't actually have a ton of armor around the bridge. Normally what you see from these vehicles is around the bridge, they normally have similar armor sets to the front of turrets or even the belt, but this thing, it doesn't care about its commander. It only has 12.7mm, which is very much a surprise. Modification-wise, on the 152s, you get HE stock, which is not going to be fun. Obviously, you'll be great against destroyers, but against other stuff such as cruisers and battleships, the main stuff you're going to fight, it's going to be a bit rough with that stock HE. Luckily, you get access to some CPBC, the semi-armor piercing ballistic cap shell, pretty quickly at rank 1 of the modifications, which pens 197, 175, 72, which is not too bad, but its explosive mass is incredibly small. And then the other round you get is a HETF shell. with a timed fuse. So if you come up against anything which has more than 200mm of armor, which is quite a lot of machines around this BR, especially at 5.7 and 6.0, well, you're kind of out of luck. You pretty much have to hope that your torpedoes land, which is not always the easiest. The 102mm also get access to some different shells, so you got the HE, the SAP, and also the HETF. So you can use them for anti-air, or you can use them to try and destroy little ships or little boats, which shouldn't be too bad. And the torpedoes only travel 12 kilometers, which in most cases is not too bad, but on the extended larger maps, that's a little bit rough. The rest of the modifications are pretty standard, nothing too crazy to see there. So the Liverpool comes in game as another squadron vehicle. If they keep up with the pace of what they're doing, where basically they do one squadron vehicle per update, I'm very happy with that personally. I think that's a good schedule to go on. And I know a lot of people are going to look at this and think, oh, it's just another boat. Like, why do I care about another boat? Well, to be honest with you, if you have a look at squadron vehicles for boats, we've actually got a lot of really interesting ones. You have the Shimakaze, which has a ton of really nice torpedoes, really fun to use, especially in arcades, some really nice main guns as well. Then you also have access to the PR-35, which is a very fun frigate, and now what you have is access to the Liverpool, which is a lot more standard than those two things, but does have a tech tree equivalent, and does have access to some pretty good firing 6-inch guns, which should be able to do a lot of damage against stuff such as destroyers and also light cruisers, but struggle against heavies and battleships because of the armor penetration. Generally for vehicles like this, you want to pick them up to bolster lineups. You want to pick them up to make things a little bit easier on yourself as you go through. Examples of this are the A4E, of course, you know, the Firecrest in naval or ground, which have similar uses in that regard. And then other things as well, such as even the Leopard 2PL at higher echelons of the game for the German ground. And the Liverpool is a perfect example of that, because it is a ship which fits perfectly into a lineup that only has 2 ships in it. The general thing you want to bring in naval, since you have access to 3 separate spawns, is you want to have 3 separate ships. And by only having 2, then you limit yourself, and then you have to normally bring a slightly worse ship. So now with the Liverpool having access to a vehicle which fully sorts out that lineup, and then you only have to worry about aircraft, is nice. You know, it's a wonderful little thing. It'll also mean, because it's a squadron vehicle, what you're able to do is, well, you're able to research it alongside other vehicles that you're already researching. So it's not like it's taking anything away from you researching tech tree vehicles. It's just another little cherry on the top to use once you research those 5.3 machines. I personally wouldn't use this thing any higher than 5.3 though. The basic reason for this is because as you go up to 5.7 and 6.0, these vehicles, these light cruisers, do not scale well. They get annihilated by heavy cruisers, and they get absolutely annihilated by battleships and battle cruisers. So it is much better to just run it at 5.3 and hope to get down tiers, which you will get a decent amount, because there's a lot of 4.3 and 4.7 destroyers running around. But then again, with the addition of more and more of the battleships, I suppose that will become more popular as it goes along. Overall though, I'm very happy to see this machine. I think it's a great pick for a squadron vehicle. I think it's really awesome to see it in the game, and also have Liverpool represented in its own little way. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank BRFC, Swollen Ostrich, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe A, Conte Baraka, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Lafouche, Barine, and Samuel Schlick for supporting the channel.